Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into our Thursday, September 14th edition of the Super Will Sports Podcast. I'm Joe Will, joined by my co-host Tyler. Tyler, how are you doing tonight?
Dude, I'm doing great. The Minnesota Vikings can disappoint me tonight instead of me having to wait all the way till Sunday.
Wait, let me read this right on my hand. Ask Tyler about his Vikings jersey.
No, I had like a whole bit prepared. So anyway, you see it, number 84. Vikings legend. Well, you ruined it. Yeah,
sorry,
it's an Irv Smith jersey. No, that's fine. That's the whole point. It was Irv Smith. It's not a Randy Moss jersey. I don't have a Randy Moss jersey. But I always like to keep my trend of wearing Alabama players, like jerseys, while we do this show. And Swerve and Irvin, I mean, I guess I could have got a Dalvin Tomlinson jersey from last year. But Irv was the only player that we've drafted. And I guess the only one that we'll ever draft that went to school while I was at Alabama. So just happened that we happened to draft one Alabama player. So, of course, I got his jersey right away. Even though he wasn't that great, and he's on the Bengals now.
You mean you don't have like 15 players on your NFL team that are from Alabama like I did?
Yeah, no. The Eagles, who we play tonight. I do have a Jalen jersey. Not going to be wearing that tonight, unfortunately. If there's like a Thursday night football and I'll try to wear their jerseys. Except not tonight, Jalen. I love you, but I hope you suck for one game.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either. He's going to destroy us. We're going to lose by 40.
No, it'll be a close game. But anyways, the real reason we're here. Well, before I go off on my rant about Alabama football, because there'll be plenty of Alabama football talk tonight, I didn't want to give an update. Tyler and I talked about this before. The pick updates for us. Week 1, we're just going to completely ignore. Week 1, we are horrible.
Didn't happen.
Week 2, we did all right. I went 7-3. Tyler went 6-4. We kind of had some similar games. I was telling Tyler before the show that I was 7-0 up until Alabama lost to Texas, obviously, and Arizona State I had covering. They did not cover, and Auburn kind of shit the bed too. So great start. I kind of looked at the games this week. I almost just fell. And the games this week aren't that great, but I'm hoping to capitalize on the momentum from last week. But the big buts. Yeah. Texas. First, we'll talk about the game, and then we'll kind of give our thoughts. The game talk, obviously, just being strictly how the game went. I guess the two will kind of bleed together, but
yeah.
Obviously, everybody knows by now, Texas won 34-24 over Alabama. First thing, one of the things I noticed, aside from the Milroe conversation we'll get into, is that Quinn Ewers just looked comfortable all night. I mean, he didn't look like we didn't get any pressure on him. And this is a guy that really hasn't proved that he's a great quarterback, but just based off of that game alone has really improved how people view him, his overall Heisman conversation, NFL draft, all that. I mean, he played well. He played lights out. So that's one of the first things I noticed. Tyler, what do you think about
I made a joke.
I openly just did not think he was good, and he proved me wrong.
So I thought he was good. Like, he looked good last year before getting hurt. I was a Quinn Ewers fan. I made a joke that they were going to be calling for Arch Manning before the game was over, but I don't think that's true. I think he looked solid. And honestly, like, this maybe is like a bit of a reactionary take, but I think that one single game against Alabama he might have played his way into like a first round pick level, because like scouts are going to watch the tape on that game and be like, look at the potential there. Like, maybe I don't know. Maybe he's overrated based on that game because our defensive line sucked or whatever. But he had super accurate passes. He made the right reads. He was like mobile in the pocket. Like, he had everything you could ask for out of a good quarterback. And I think that like he had a lot of hype the past couple of years. I mean, especially when he was at Ohio State, because he was like the first player to sign a major NIL deal, if I remember correctly, right? Because he forgot
when
his senior year of college, right, to go to Ohio State.
Not a college,
high school. Excuse me. Yes.
He went backwards. No, yeah, I think it was during COVID, obviously, so times were weird. And I think he went to a school that wasn't going to have a season, so he just said, "To hell with that." I'm going to go to Ohio State, and he didn't play, but very highly recruited guy for them. So Quinn Ewers played well. No running game for Alabama through 2 games.
Well, they had a great running game at the start, and then they tried to like go on script more of a passing game. And I think that once they weren't able to sustain a bunch of drives, their running game kind of got gassed. And like Texas started loading the box a lot. Like it or not, I mean, we'll get into this conversation. Merrill did nothing to worry Texas at all in the passing game. So they just brought all their players close to the box and stopped the run in the second half.
Yeah, which I mean,
they had the potential to be a good running game, and it makes me. I know that Nick Saban has been vocal about not wanting to be an option team anymore because not an option team, but not running so many options because he's vocally said that he believes that he hurt Jalen Hurts' development as a quarterback because he did that too much. But at the end of the day, development's great, but you got to win the games. Like Jalen Milroe running options, the couple of times they did it worked super well. I don't understand why they don't try to incorporate those more.
Yeah, and we're about like probably a minute into just completely nuking this whole conversation, just diving into it. But another thing I noticed before we kind of go off the deep end was the Texas receivers. I mean, we knew going into this game, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, we knew how talented the receiver room was. I was still surprised. I think I was just surprised overall. Texas just came out and punched Bama in the mouth, and I thought it was going to be the complete opposite. And so you look at this Texas team, and it's a team that I picked to win the Big 12. I had a lot of respect for them, but I thought that it would take them longer to get kind of going offensively and defensively, and they would kind of hit their stride later in the season. It just kind of appears that Texas is back. I mean, can we say that?
I think right now Texas is indeed back. I honestly am interested going forward about Texas, though, because they have Arch Manning, highest recruit in a long time. I'm not so sure Arch is great. We'll see. You heard it here first. I'm just putting that out there, floating that one. Not a super hot take, honestly, from people that got like super into following his recruitment, but he played in a really weak high school conference and didn't exactly light the world on fire either. So I'm interested to see. I think this year Texas is a legitimate contender. I think it'll be really interesting next year because it could totally be one of those situations where Texas is back for a year and then who knows. But Sark seems to have kind of righted the ship. And one thing I wanted to specifically say about Texas, watching the game, Tommy Rees seems a lot better than Bill O'Brien through 2 games as a coordinator. Even casuals will be quick to be like, oh, they didn't pick up a lot of yards. The passing game sucked. People were getting open. He was scheming receivers open. We just weren't hitting the throws. That being said, Texas does a bunch of super creative stuff, like lots of motion, design swing passes, routes that hide other routes. Like I love their offensive scheme. It was so interesting. And I just, for once, as good at even if Tommy Rees is good, I always just want to be that team. It's kind of like being a fan of the Chiefs, where your team is like innovative. It does a bunch of cool stuff.
And we've had that in the past when we had Sark and when we had Kiffin, but you kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier without directly saying it. I think that Nick Saban needs to do a better job of tailoring his offense to the athletes that he has and also the defense. I know we've ran the same defensive scheme for since the freaking Stone Age, but it makes no sense. I will never understand why you don't call plays on offense and defense with the personnel that you have.
Yeah. The thing that's hard is Kool-Aid McKinstry's great. I'm not a huge Terry and Arnold fan or like any of the other corners. And a lot of their scheme has, Terry and Arnold matching up with A.D. Mitchell over and over again. And that did not work super well. And we also linebackers linebackers at coverage are not great. Was it Sanders? Jatavian Sanders was just eating us up.
Yeah, and he's a decent running back, but he's not anything.
I thought he was a tight end.
Is he a tight end?
Yeah, he's their tight end.
Shit. I mean, regardless, we thought this year we had this issue resolved, but the Texas game proved that it's the same issues. Linebackers, not in coverage, just completely out of place, missing tackles, and receivers just running free down the field. And Pete Golding left. We thought that was going to change. I've never been a big Kevin Steele fan, but I thought, oh, Kevin Steele's been around. He's a respected, well-respected defensive coordinator. I thought those issues would get resolved defensively, and they just weren't resolved at all.
All the talk about a new attitude and new energy.
Yes, that's something we can both agree on.
They just kind of rolled over and let everything happen. I mean, there's that clip of the guy getting pushed back 20 yards after the whistle, and he just didn't do anything. And also, how are you going to talk about that and then not even get a single pressure? Did they have a single pressure on Quinn Ewers? I don't think they did. They definitely didn't have a sack.
I don't think so.
So they barely even got like anywhere close to him all game. And I just don't. Do we not have the personnel? Do we not have the? Okay, I will say I think it's super lame for all the old players to be dragging all these athletes.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I think that's some sucker stuff. Like we get it. Back in your day, okay, whatever, Grandpa. Like support the players now. They don't need a bunch of players. I understand that people wish that Alabama, I don't think people miss the attitude of Alabama of old. I think they miss the winning of Alabama of old.
Yes, exactly. Exactly my point.
I don't think anyone cares about we used to have players fighting on the sideline each other. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, that has
that's a good thing.
The stuff that was associated with that was the winning. The winning was a great part.
Exactly. You have memories of the team being dominant.
I saw that and it made me so mad. You're an old player and you're like, back in my day, we used to, beat each other into a pulp at practice. That is not a good thing. When has that ever worked out? Georgia's won a national championship 2 years in a row. Do you hear about them fighting in practice? Do you see them fighting on the sidelines? No. So that has no correlation to being a successful team.
Yeah,
in fact,
exactly.
It worked for Alabama just because it worked. That doesn't mean it's going to work. 99.9% of the time, if you have players fighting in practice and fighting on the sideline, it's not going to translate well on the field.
Do you think in 10 years, if Georgia's not good anymore, people are going to be like, back in my day, Georgia players used to get arrested for DUIs at least once a week?
Yeah, exactly.
You think they're going to miss that?
Fighting and all that shit, it's not a flex. It's not the flex that you think it is. It's a bad thing. And so I think it's because our team, we've been soft this year. Well, guess what? You don't just because you can be hard without fighting in practice.
Yeah, that's called being disciplined.
Yeah, being disciplined. And that's something we haven't had. So people saying when this team has already been undisciplined the last 3 years, people being like, oh, we should fight more in practice. No, we shouldn't fight more in practice. That is the definition of being undisciplined.
And honestly, on a
Let
team
me pick up this
white like that, you're fine. People fighting in practice and stuff like that, it doesn't inspire confidence in me as there's already a lot of lack of cohesion between especially on the defensive end. The last thing you need is these people throwing fists at each other in practice. I get wanting to have the team hold each other accountable. That's great. You look at I don't want people Draymond Greening each other and breaking up all the team chemistry because they're mad about something that happened in practice. I think there's a fine median, and people are just swinging the pendulum way too far in the other direction.
Yeah, and in the defense, this is the last time I'll probably defend Alabama fans tonight. This team has not looked tough at all. And you have got J.C. Latham calling himself Trench King. You got these guys saying they've got a chip on their shoulder. They're pissed off this season. No, you're not. I mean, you're not. The offensive line is supposed to be a strength for the team, and it's been god awful this year. So you can't – if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk, and they haven't done that this year. So don't sit here and I mean, it's fake toughness to me. You say you're tough. You say you've gained all this weight. You're this big. You're a badass player. We'll play like it. I mean, and some of the guys that are saying that, I mean, they're younger guys. J.C. Latham. I mean, actually, J.C. Latham's, not a younger guy. He's been here for a while. But Tyler Booker's had some bad quotes this week. Some of these guys, Caden Proctor's a phenomenal offensive tackle. He played horribly this weekend. Played decently week one. But, some of those mistakes for younger players, I understand. And
Yeah.
when they say stuff, I understand. But the guys that have been here for a while and you're preaching the Bama standards back, that it's going to be different this year, and then you come out and get your ass kicked by Texas. Texas doesn't have any studs along their defensive line. They're just a well-coached defensive line, and they know how to come together as a team, and that's something Alabama hasn't done. So they had no business. I can't name a single first-round pick on that defensive line. I mean, that doesn't always mean everything, but also Alabama, J.C. Latham's going to be a first-round pick, and he got his butt kicked. So, I don't know. We're on the same wavelength about the former players thing.
Yeah, I think
especially, DeMarco Hellams, dude, really?
Yeah,
you got torched for what, 4 touchdowns last year,
like that,
and you're gonna sit here and act like you're big, tough, and bad.
To be fair, you mentioned it earlier. How much of that was Pete, right? You looked at him in the preseason for the Falcons. All of a sudden, DeMarco Hellams looked pretty dang good. Like maybe it's more scheme as well. And then you also said we've been running the same scheme for a while. It kind of okay. I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but perhaps we need to modernize our defensive scheme, because eventually you run the same thing over and over again for years. People know exactly how to eat it up, especially someone like
the sport
Steve
has
Sarkisian.
Changed completely too.
Especially someone like Steve Sarkisian that was on the staff with you for several years and then played against you in practice every time. If you keep, I know obviously stuff changes from year to year, but if you keep the same general scheme for that long, people are going to find out how to exploit it.
Yeah, I agree. And offensively, we saw what we did with Tua and what we did with Mac, and we've kind of modernized our offense, but the defense is still rough. And you brought up a good point too about Pete Golding. I was hard on him. Still don't think he was the best defensive coordinator, but you've got 2 defensive coordinators now that have had the same issues. It's got to be scheme related. All right.
We should talk about the other games first. Then we can get into the Milroe discussion.
Nah, come on. We're already on Alabama. Fine. Let us.
Okay, fine.
PSA, Alabama fans, shut the hell up, please. Jalen Milroe did not have the best game on Saturday night. Was it all his fault? No. Did he miss open receivers and panic and run out of the pocket a lot? Yeah, he did. But you know what? The guy has played in 4 games. He started 3 college football games. Have some faith. You can't – the same people that are sitting there and openly bashing him are the people that never believed in him from the start. And it's okay. You don't have to be in the same boat as me and be a Jalen Milroe fanboy or whatever you want to call it. But have some faith in your guys. It sickens me to my core when I see a player like that not have the best game, and then Alabama fans just openly take a dump on him. I don't understand it. And it's not even just – I think Alabama fans are spoiled brats. Spoiled brats. And Alabama's been successful as a program for many years, and I think obviously that's a good thing. But when you have losses like this and players not play the best, I think it's a horrible thing to sit here and trash a player. You can say whatever, talk amongst your friends, blah blah blah. Going on Twitter though, and then crapping on the kid, and then I go to look at his Instagram. I'm like, let me check his Instagram comments, and then people taking the time to go on Instagram to say, you're a running back, you suck, you lost in the game. That is awful. And you can take your fandom card and you can stick it where the sun don't shine if you're going to act like that, because that's not how fans need to act towards their team.
Yeah. I agree. I think going after a kid on Twitter or whatever on Instagram is ridiculous. And he's still just a kid. He's in college. He's not even a pro. He's not making, I guess he's making money now, but he's not making millions and millions of dollars to do this. And also, like you said, this is his 3rd start ever. However, I will say, I think I was a lot more negative on Jalen Milroe after the game than you were. I try to be reasonable about it, but I do think he hasn't shown any growth from last year, which is very concerning to me. made the exact same mistakes. I mean, he had 2 nice passes all night. 2. Like, he had a deep touchdown and then 1 deep throw for like 30 yards.
He had one throw, I think it was right before halftime, that he threw it. It was in like the corner of the end zone. The defender made like a nice play that it could have been a touchdown.
Okay, so we're counting could have been touchdowns now. So then I will also count the one that he threw right to the defender that bounced off his hand that could have been an interception.
Awesome. Yeah, that was terrible. But this is what I want to say.
plays.
We talked about modernizing the offensive defense. Jalen Miller's not a pocket passer.
No.
He's never going to be a pocket passer. Jalen Hurts wasn't a pocket passer. But you know what we started to do with Jalen Hurts that we should be doing with Jalen Milroe? Adapting the offense. Tommy Reese needs to – Milroe decision-making, not the best, but Reese needs to put him in a better position to showcase his skill set.
They need to run like an RPO offense. Like one read RPO offense.
With those running backs too, oh my gosh, it would work so well. I do not understand by the life of me why we're not doing that.
Yeah, and like because the problem with his 2 picks that he had were egregious. Like the first one he just completely stared down the receiver, made it super obvious where he was going to throw it, still threw it. Second one he literally threw it right to a defender that I guess he just didn't see, which is crazy to me. And it's just the decision. The reason that I think I'm so negative on Milroe is I think that with a quarterback that didn't turn the ball over, just took the easy passes and could just routinely complete short throws, we would have won that game. I think with like a Tyler Buckner, we probably would have won that game.
I don't think so. I think Milroe's part of the problem when you have an offense that, has 90 yards and penalties. You look at it from a box score standpoint, you're like, those 2 picks cost 10 points. We lost by 10 points. Okay. That's fair. But who's to say that let's say the game goes into overtime or something. We could have lost another way. So
yeah, but losing in overtime was better than losing by 10 in regulation. But anyway, I think that it's not just the 10 points. So, okay, I will say you can absolutely argue that 7 of those points, maybe Buckner doesn't make that beautiful deep pass. Okay, I'll give you that. Buckner probably completes all the easy passes over the middle that Milroe just straight up missed. And those were like infuriating because then we're always playing behind the sticks because it'd be like first down, 15-yard pass, guy wide open, throws it into the ground. And then as well, another thing that gets underrated, I know you talked a lot about the offensive line being big at fault, and I know Milroe's pressured a lot. One, I think that he was too quick to run and put himself in a lot of those pressures where if he was better at stepping up and navigating the pocket, it wouldn't have been a big deal. And 2, I know someone went back. I forget who it was, but I remember someone went back and looked, and I don't think a single time all game he adjusted his like protection at all. I know that's like the mental game is not like as a quarterback is not his strong suit, right? He's like a super athlete that they're hoping can get the mental stuff down, like processing, making better decisions, like doing protection stuff. But to not adjust your protection a single time and then be like, oh, the offensive line is awful, I think is also just on him for not, helping them out.
I think from the first snap, though, it was clear that the offensive line wasn't going to do well. I think as the game went on, he started to panic more and realize, and that's when he started to run out of clean pocket. But I think from the first quarter, it was evident that, hey, the offensive line did not come to play today. And a lot of times early on in the game, it was like he was trying to find a receiver, and then he didn't have any time. He had a guy in his face. But I agree with you that as the game went on, the offensive line got a little bit better, and he started breaking down the pocket himself. Yeah. But they need to – he's an athlete. They need to stop asking him to think and just go with his instincts. Because, those picks were like, dude, you're overthinking it, man.
Right.
Just let Jalen Milroe be Jalen Milroe. Let him be the phenomenal runner, the phenomenal athlete that he is. Look, the guy can throw the ball. He might not make the best decisions. He might not be the most accurate, but he can throw the ball far.
Okay, Joe Milton fan too.
No, kind of to, I guess, maybe a lesser extent, but I think it's not like when people say Jalen Milroe can't throw. He can throw the ball. His decision-making might not be the best, but if you just tailor the offense to him, he looked pretty good the first week. It was against Middle Tennessee, but they need to open the offense up and say, hey, Jalen, we don't need you to be Bryce Young pulling a rabbit out of a hat. We just need you to be Jalen Milroe, be the athlete, be the guy that we recruited you to be.
See, I kind of agree. Like, I don't think he has the QB instincts needed to be Bama's starting
But
quarterback. I
if
agree with
Buckner
that.
and Simpson had those instincts, don't you think we'd see him on the field?
No, actually, I think we had this exact situation in 2017, right? Tua was clearly the better quarterback. He was a freshman. Nick Saban was a big Jalen guy, still is, loves Jalen. And his loyalty to Jalen had us playing with a worse quarterback up until halftime at the national championship game. I love Jalen. In college, I think it was indisputable that Tua was better. Now, like, Jalen's developed a lot. He's a great quarterback now.
So this Jalen can't develop as the season goes on?
He can, but I'm just saying that they wouldn't have even been as close if they just played Tua from the get-go. And this Jalen, the other Jalen, didn't develop at Alabama. He developed at Oklahoma. He's an Alabama and Oklahoma quarterback, but he didn't take that leap until he went to Oklahoma. I mean, I don't know.
Didn't he lead him to a national championship as a freshman? I mean, they had some good players on their team.
Their defense that year was just insane. This Jalen does not have that luxury, unfortunately. But it's just, I don't know. You're gonna hate this idea. You're gonna absolutely hate it. I wouldn't mind if they used USF as a tryout game for Buckner or Simpson. Let them have the starting offense for a couple of drives and just see how they do.
I don't know what that accomplishes though, because then you have a quarterback controversy as you're going into the next week playing.
We already have a quarterback controversy though. Maybe not like internally, but everyone on the outside is already talking about it.
It doesn't matter. That's part of the problem is the outside noise.
But not even just on the outside. Nick Saban came out and said at halftime he was considering switching quarterbacks. So there's already like smoke there. He said in an interview, like, yes, I did consider putting in Buckner. And I think if
there's smoke, but do you want to burn the whole house down against UCF just to make it complicated when you play?
I think you should see what you have in game. Like, I think that burning the whole house down, like Milroe clearly already wasn't good enough to beat the good teams. Why does it hurt? I mean, he's clearly just not there yet. What does it hurt trying to see if someone else might have that edge, you know?
Well, if you do that, then Milroe he's done. He's cooked. You're killing his confidence. You got it. The fact that Nick Saban is stuck by Jalen Milroe and didn't bench him proves that he has faith in Milroe, knows that he can do it. He might not have Alabama fans too happy about it, but I think you stick with the guy. Now, I'm sure we'll blow USF out, and in the second half, you'll see these guys. Let's just say Milroe starts, plays decent, whatever. Ole Miss game, Milroe plays horribly, then I'm all for that idea. But I think you give him this game as a kind of like, hey, dude, let's get your confidence back up a little bit. I mean, you played well towards the end of the game, but let's keep this going, and I have some faith in you. It's all about faith. If you bench him, then you're just saying, I don't know why we started you to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know if faith.
That's a good comment though. Maybe benching him will wake him up.
I agree with that. I think that confidence doesn't really matter because he clearly is already not that confident in his decision making. So I don't know how much lower it can get, right? Like he already didn't look like the most confident player out there. So it's dumb, but
he had some nice throws though. I mean, it wasn't like
awful throws as well.
I know. I'm not disputing that.
I know. He did have a couple beautiful throws.
That throw where he dropped back and he stepped up in the pocket, set his feet, and threw a touchdown to Burton. That was a great throw. Also, Jermaine Burton played well this year.
Yeah, the receivers as a whole, I think, are playing better. Like they're getting open a lot more.
Yeah, I do think that one of the problems that's plaguing our team that we haven't brought up tonight is the true number one receiver. We haven't really had one of those, and most teams have like a go-to guy. If it's time to win the game, who are you throwing it to? Like off the top of your head.
I mean, just off the top of my head, like based on this year or who I think I should be throwing it to. Based on this year, it's Burton right now. Like honestly, just he seems to have the best chemistry with Milroe. Based on who I think it should be, I would probably go to Ja'Cory Brooks or maybe Malik Benson. He's had some nice catches. He just hasn't been targeted that much.
I thought Ja'Cory Brooks would be like tearing it up.
He has like one catch so far through 2 games or something.
Yeah, they need
Kobe Prentice had a really good game last week too.
Ja'Cory Brooks is good too. He had like 800 yards receiving last year. Like they need to change the offense.
Actually, maybe Isaiah Bond based on this year. Isaiah Bond has made some great plays. We have like those 5 guys. I know I literally named every receiver that plays. Those are like the 5 that rotate in.
I like he's not a receiver, but I like tight end Amari Niblack. He played well. He had a touchdown. I know a lot of people were not happy after the game because he had like an Instagram live video, but he's a kid too. I mean, that's kind of overall, this is how I feel. These are young kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the college football players. They're getting paid now, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, they're kids, and some of them don't have a lot of experience.
The best player on the team absolutely is Will Riker.
So
sad when he leaves next year.
The most dependable players it's been Will Riker. But yeah,
we're gonna go back to the dark age of kicking.
Oh gosh, no, I don't need that.
Well, we had like a 5-star or a 6-star kicker, I think.
6 stars? They don't even give 6 stars.
They do for kickers.
You're lying.
I swear to God, kickers have their own rating system.
There's no way. I gotta see this.
Let me see. So, I think like there's their own system.
No, there's not 6 stars.
Yeah, no. There definitely is. Let me look real quick. CSK rating. I think that's it. Sorry, let me look this up real quick.
No, you're good. Overall theme is that I think fans need to take a deep breath. But I also think that the people now that are trashing Milroe, let's say he plays well. I mean, they're going to be the people that are going to be like, oh, yeah, Milroe's good. They're going to be his biggest fans. That's just how it is, too. And this is kind of a bigger point. When you look at college football this year and you look at the SEC, what makes you think Alabama can't run the table? No SEC team. Tennessee hasn't looked that good to me. Georgia hasn't looked that good. They'll have a semi-test this week against a frisky South Carolina team. LSU already lost to a really good Florida State team, but nobody in the SEC looks that great. So, and you look at Alabama's schedule, you go to South Florida, and then you play Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, A&M, and Tennessee. Like, that's a hard schedule. A lot of those games, thankfully, are at home, but we'll see how good this team is. I mean, if you drop a couple games, the season's over. If we win the rest of those games, Milroe plays well, then we're right back in the conversation, right back in the thick of things. I think this year, too, is going to be one that's going to be a little odd. I mean, you could see a 2-loss team get into playoffs. I don't want Alabama to have 2 losses, but I think they have a tough schedule overall, which helps them and hurts them. I mean, nobody else Texas was obviously a really good team. I mean, Bama didn't look great, but who else has played a team of that caliber 2 weeks in? Nobody.
Right. Well, I also...
That's the problem with, LSU, Florida State's really good. They're a really good team. They're one of the best teams in the country. Texas, obviously, is also one of the best teams in the country. It sucks for LSU and Alabama because they lost those games. But, the flip side, you win those 2 games, you're viewed in a high light too. But it's just how it is with scheduling.
So, by the way, I found it. There's this. I guess it's not like an official ranking, but the major kicking camps are CSK Chris Saylor Kicking. It's like the All-American, McDonald's All-American for kickers, and they rank people on a 6-star scale. So I read that kickers were 6 stars before, but it's just through the ranking. And I also did want to say that, there's a 6-star. This guy's going to Texas A&M. Anyway, there's a thing that I want to say, which is that I would sorry, my brain was thinking about 6-star kickers. If you have to lose it all, right? Obviously, prefer not to lose. But if you have to lose it all,
lose early.
A 10-point loss to now they're the number 4 team. They were a borderline top 10 team. Out of conference, the second game into the season is about as good of a loss as you could hope for. So I'm not mad. Like, absolutely, we're still in control our own destiny territory. I don't even think you have to look good. If you win out and win the SEC, you're absolutely in the playoffs.
I think this is a team too that's obviously young and inexperienced and full of talent, but they would have benefited from maybe playing this game later on in the season because sometimes it takes these teams like Ohio State's like awful this year. They have a ton of talent. Eventually, they're going to get it together, and they're going to have their tougher games against decent teams. Are going to be towards the end of the year, and that's just not how. That's not how the cookie crumbled for Alabama this year. They had a really tough game the second week of the year, but like we keep saying, we'll see how they respond. I'm not giving up on them. I'm not giving up on Jalen Milroe. Didn't play the best, but offensive line, play calling, both sides of the ball need to be, shaken up a bit. But that's kind of the Bama spiel we have for tonight, and then we'll talk about some other things too. Oregon beat Texas Tech. I knew that was going to be a tough game. Bo Nix has played really well. You know how I feel about Bo Nix. Heisman conversation. That was a tough challenge for them going into a tough environment like Texas Tech and playing that game, but they won. Former quarterback Tyler Schaub, 282 through the air, 101 on the ground, 3 touchdowns. He did have 3 picks, but he played minus the turnovers, which was difference of the game. He played pretty well too.
For a while, they were up like decently big on Oregon, actually.
Yeah, they had one of the backdoor covers.
Yeah, it looks further away than the game actually was. Like, I think that Texas Tech was right in there, and then kind of blew it a little bit towards the end. I don't know. Bo Nix having fun, dark horse Heisman, etc., etc. Miami beat Texas A&M 48-33. Tyler Van Dyke, he's been looking decent these couple. I know he was super hyped up for a while.
Yeah, guy that almost went to Alabama.
Yeah, he's another guy that is like, this quarterback class is absolutely stacked, right?
He looked really good, and A&M's defense is a solid defense. Like, that's a guy that, like you said, like his draft stock. Like, I watched him, I was like, this guy looks like an NFL quarterback. Yeah. I wasn't sold on. I was a little bit higher on Van Dyke, but Van Dyke this weekend was just like, he looked spot on.
Like, real quick too, because like this year's quarterback class might be one of the deepest potentially. So not all these guys are gonna go to the draft, I don't think, but just off the top of my head, potential.
Look at the Pac-12.
Just the Pac-12 in general. Obviously, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then after that, you have like Michael Penix, Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix,
DJ's playing
DJ Uiagalelei. Spencer Rattler looks really good. Tyler Van Dyke, if he continues it up, looks pretty dang good. And then I know I'm forgetting a couple of them too. There's at least 1 or 2 more that look.
Sam Hartman's look good.
Sam Hartman, yeah, I think he'll be a later round pick probably.
Yeah.
But so just off the top of my head, I mean, and then I guess technically Milroe is the junior. He's not going to be. But it's just Shadur Sanders. That's who I was thinking of. But I guess he's not eligible till next year, right? Or is it this year? No, sorry, it's Travis Hunter. That's not till next year. Shadur Sanders potentially could be a first-round pick this year if he keeps it up. And speaking of Shadur, actually, Colorado won 36-14 over Nebraska. Rest in peace, my Matt Rule making Nebraska good prediction.
Hey, buddy, I was right there with you.
I think Jeff Sims is just not a good quarterback.
He's awful. I mean, we've got him in the Google Doc. Shadur Sanders. Let's do some comparing and contrasting.
Yeah.
900 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2 games.
2 games. That's pretty good.
Struggled. But our boy Jeff Sims, who I hyped up a lot, pretty much everybody, I was like, oh, Jeff Sims is good. 1 touchdown and 4 picks.
The Jeff Sims experience was highlighted in week 1 against who they play? Was it
Minnesota? He had 3 interceptions.
Yeah. The like, I don't know if you were watching that game. I'm a stick freak, and I was watching it because I was so invested in Nebraska being good.
We're both sick.
Yeah, right before halftime, they drove down the field and got to like the goal line, and then Jeff Sims placed the ball right in the defender's hands, and I was like, "This is the Jeff Sims experience. We're in for this all season." How long before? I know they had what was the quarterback
Casey
name?
Thompson.
Casey Thompson. How long do you think before he gets a start?
Oh, if Sim struggles, look, I mean, he plays for Florida Atlantic, so that's.
Oh no, yeah. Hold on.
I don't know who their backup is. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought it was Casey Thompson.
I thought so too.
I don't know.
Actually, speaking of the Devil, Jeff Sims is questionable for the Northern Illinois game. I just looked it up. He has an ankle injury. Heinrich Harburg.
Yeah, I got no file on.
You don't know Heinrich Harburg?
I don't know much about.
Dude, he saw action as a hybrid receiver at Minnesota. So that's what it says on his profile page.
I'm sure Matt Rule was thrilled about his quarterback situation.
I swear I thought they had like a high recruit, but
I'm drinking the Colorado Kool-Aid. Look, my prediction of them this year was them going 6-6. I didn't think they'd beat TCU. I mean, they were 20.5-point dogs. And then they won that game. I was like, okay, like TCU maybe just sucks. Then Nebraska, solid defensively. I don't know how Colorado is going to play against Oregon and USC and some of these other tough teams, but they've looked good so far. And that's all you can really ask. It's just, you play the games on your schedule. Offensively, they've looked great. Defensively,
not as much.
They gave up. They didn't look the best in that TCU game. I mean, obviously, Travis Hunter's phenomenal, but I think there's a lot of other players too on this team that aren't really. I mean, you're talking about Shedeur Sanders. You talk about
Shiloh Sanders has been decent. I know it's his sixth year in the league or in the NCAA, but
and Travis Hunter. But I mean, Jimmy Horn, I think, is a receiver for them. Like they've got some other guys that are stepping up. So they're at the worst of a fun team this year. But they've been competitive.
This year's their last like fun week. Then it starts kind of the brutal 2-game stretch where they play Washington and USC back to back. I think. Oregon and USC. Excuse me.
We'll know a lot about, the team.
So my prediction for them was they start off 3-0 and they come out of that 3-2. I could be wrong. If they come out 4-1 or even God forbid 5-0, they are legit. They are a contender team. They will be a top 5 team at that point if they come out 5-0. We'll see. I know a lot of scouts have been buying into the Shedeur Sanders hype very heavily. I think that if he continues to have a good year all year, he has all the traits and the makings of a potentially good first-round pick quarterback. I think that he has the mobility. I think that he has the arm talent. I know his arm strength isn't the best, but he had some great accuracy on his deep balls. Even then, he knows where to put them and when to throw them. So I think that he's very intriguing, and I've been paying a lot of attention to the quarterbacks this year because my football team is probably going to draft a quarterback in the first round, regardless of what happens next year. Yeah, regardless of our record. So
my team might too. I mean, Sam Howell
didn't look great.
He looked okay week 1, but I mean, we both could be in the quarterback conversation. So yeah, but real quick, we'll I guess not necessarily real quick, but we'll kind of look at the games this week. This is the first time I've really looked at the full slate. A lot of people were complaining. I know the games next week are insanely great, but we'll start kind of with Tennessee.
The Hurricanes are playing right now, actually. They're up 7-0.
Yeah, they're playing like Bethune-Cookman.
Bethune-Cookman, yeah.
But yeah, Tennessee is a 6-point favorite at Florida. Florida really let me down week 1 against Utah.
Same.
I'm not really all that sold on Tennessee either, though. And Florida played decent last week, so I'm gonna get Florida. I'll take Florida to cover. Why not?
I don't know the spreads, so I'm just gonna pick my.
The spreads are on here, buddy.
The spreads are on where, buddy? What are you looking
at? The little ticker thing. I don't know if you can see it, but
I can.
All right.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
No, I'm taking Tennessee.
Tennessee cover. You're probably going to be right, but I'm going to get crazy.
I'm not a big Joe Milton guy, though. I made the Joe Milton joke earlier. I think he's insanely overrated, and I think that people love him because he can bomb the ball 87 yards, but that doesn't matter when you can't complete the 87-yard pass. So.
Yeah. I'm going to continue the craziness. South Carolina at UGA. Okay. South Carolina, I will pick them to cover. I want to go balls to the wall and say
I am so close to saying it.
I want to go ball. This cover is like disgusting to me. It's like, but I'm not going to pick them to beat Georgia just because Georgia's Georgia. But I'm not sold on Georgia. They haven't had a test this year.
I'll say it. South Carolina wins. I'm calling it.
What?
A spicy take. I know. Maybe
that goes in though with the theme of the SEC we've seen this year not really being that great.
Georgia's been
Rattler's a beast.
Things have been too good for Georgia for several years. They are bound.
They've got their heads in the clouds.
Maybe I've been saying this for a while. They're gonna have like a crazy loss at some point. Every team does, right? And
if it's not this week, then I mean hold on, this is what I'm thinking about too. This could be a look ahead game because they're at Auburn next week, and they're probably like, oh, South Carolina, whatever, we play them at home. This could be a game that they overlook and they don't cover. Maybe even they lose the game. I mean, Rattler's he's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks this year. They've got weapons. Georgia defensive line hasn't generated a lot of pressure this year. South Carolina offensive line got worked by North Carolina week 1. So I don't know. I think it'll be a good game, and I'm hoping it's a good game because there's not a lot of good games this week. But
I don't know.
South Carolina money line. That's a ballsy move.
Like I said, and it's gonna look really funny in a week when Georgia wins by 47 and we just look like idiots. So
I don't know. I think this week I'm going crazy with all my picks. LSU, 11 a.m., minus 9.5 at Mississippi State. I'm going to take Mississippi State to cover just because it's an early game. This is a Mississippi State team that has a lot of experience. They're playing at home in Stark Vegas. It's always a nightmare there, so I'm going to take them to cover.
You know what? You've convinced me. I was going to pick LSU, but I'll take it Mississippi State to cover. I'm buying what you're selling. I love me some
Will Rogers?
Will Robbins. What? We both said Will Robbins.
No, Will Rogers.
Will Rogers. Excuse me. I could freaking... I started to say Will Robinson. But I don't know why.
Anyways, next game.
Pretty sure that's the Lost in Space guy, right?
I think so.
Will Robinson.
I don't have a huge file on either one of these teams. Kansas State -4 at Missouri. I don't know. Should I drink the Elijah Drinkowitz Kool-Aid here and pick them, or should I pick Kansas State?
I don't know. I think that Kansas State is ranked. I think that they were decent last year, right? They were definitely better than Mizzou last year. I know Mizzou got a couple of good recruits, actually.
They've got Luther Gordon.
Yeah, but so listen, they played Middle Tennessee last week, like Alabama did. They won by 4 points.
Oof.
They won 23-19. I'm definitely picking K-State.
I'll take K-State to cover after seeing that. I didn't realize it's pretty bad.
Oh, also, I'm looking at K-State's game. Their first game was against SEMO. Shout out SEMO. That's kind of close to me, where I grew up. Southeast Missouri.
Shout out SEMO.
Yeah,
Penn State -15 at Illinois. This is going to be, the first road test for Drew Aller. Illinois is like a sneaky hard place to play. But I think I trust this Penn State team this year, and I'll take Penn State to cover. It'll be close in the first half, I think, but they'll pull away.
I'll also pick Penn State to cover. I just am not.
You don't trust Illinois?
I don't. Illinois. I will say Illinois has a surprising number of good defensive backs recently. It's kind of weird. Like Kirby Joseph and then what's his name? Devin Witherspoon. Both pretty good. You know? So I prefer Devin without her spoon. Yes, I'm taking Penn State.
Okay. All right. Louisville at Indiana. Louisville -10. I'm not really sold on Indiana. Don't really think they're that great. I think Louisville's a pretty solid team this year, surprisingly, which usually they're not the best. So I'll take Louisville to cover -10.
Yeah, same. I don't know. I just don't. Indiana for the past couple of years just hasn't really impressed me at all. Every single year, they're just kind of they're like the definition of mid every year, right? They're middle of the pack team. They're not going to win any crazy games. They're not going to lose the games against the Cupcakes, and they're going to finish with like a 6-6 record.
And then the last game, actually, well, I want to get to 10 games, so we'll add a couple
Okay.
on here, but
Okay.
I'll let you go first. Alabama minus 33.5 at USF. What do you think?
USF. That one's hard.
It's a huge
I,
spread.
such a huge spread. I'm gonna say USF covers. I think that Alabama wins by like 30, like right around there is what I want to say. And like I said, I think that they should. The other quarterbacks, even if they don't start, should see extended play time, like maybe a couple of series with the main people just to get some chemistry, see how that goes. But
give me a score prediction.
oh god, I was really off last week. Obviously, I'll say like I was gonna say 42-12, but then I just said they win by 30, and then I don't know. Like, or sorry, I was gonna say 42 for Alabama, but like 12 is a weird score for USF.
Yeah, it is.
I'll say I don't know, like 36-6, something like that. I can see them scoring a few more points.
Okay. I'll say Bama wins 45-17. I've got a couple. I got 3 games I just pulled out of nowhere. I'm doing a lot of pulling this.
Wait, 36 doesn't work. I'll say 34-6. Sorry, I had to think about that because I was like, mathematically, that just doesn't work without a safety.
No, you're good. 3 games on here. Washington is favored by 16.5 at Michigan State. I can see. I mean, Michigan State's got a lot of crap going on right now.
Yeah,
we
didn't even talk about the whole Mel Tucker.
Yeah, but I'm going to take Washington to cover, but I think this game can be close for a little bit too. So Washington minus 6.5. What do you think? Or 16.5?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Michigan State's going to be just completely discombobulated after this whole thing kind of spread out. I think they've had other stuff on their mind than preparing for Washington. I think that Washington also has one of the best passing attacks in college football, and so I think that
big Washington guy.
They're going to wax Michigan State.
This is an interesting one. James Madison is playing my Troy Trojans. They're favored by 2.5 points. I'm actually going to take Troy money line. Yes, I'm biased, but also Troy is like low key, not that bad of a team. They're pretty good, so I'm going to take Troy to cover. But JMU is good too.
Yeah, didn't JMU win the last like FCS championship? Am I making that up?
Yeah, no, JMU's they're a good
like
team.
The defending champions, right?
Yeah, and that's why the spread in this game is so low.
Yeah, I don't. No, I guess it was
third game here.
I guess it's been a couple of years since JMU won. South Dakota State won again last year.
Shocker.
It was Sam Houston I was thinking of a couple of years ago, and then JMU was runner-up in 2019. Anyway, none of that matters. I think I'm going to pick Troy. I just remember the one time that Troy beat LSU, and that was really funny.
That's probably everybody's only memory of
it. That's the only reason anyone knows Troy.
All right, this is our last team. I don't know much about either one of these teams. Pittsburgh plus 2.5 against West Virginia in Mountaineer Country. It's in Mountaineer Country. I'm going to take West Virginia money line.
You're going to take West Virginia? Okay.
Virginia looked okay against Penn State, which, I mean, Penn State's a good team. No bias there, too, by the way. And then their last game, they put up a lot of points in that game. So I don't really trust Pitt.
Pitt played Cincinnati pretty well, even though Cincinnati's not like a world beater anymore.
We don't know much about some of these. I wanted to get to 10 teams.
So. Well, yeah. No, I understand. I'm just saying that like Pittsburgh. I don't know. I'm going with Pittsburgh. I'm taking Pittsburgh money.
There we go. We got to differ on.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they played pretty well against a good like Cincinnati team, and I think that the Mountaineers, you know, they held their own against Penn State. They didn't get completely blown out. I mean, I guess they lost by 3 touchdowns, but I don't know. I just think that losing by 3 touchdowns isn't like, oh, they only lost by 3 touchdowns after the team took out all the starters isn't like a huge flex. And I think that Pitt was competitive the whole time. So I'm going with Pitt.
All right.
You know it's a good team when the second person listed on their roster is their place kicker for Pittsburgh. Ben Sauls. Also, he looks like he's 40. Anyway, we can.
Yeah, we had a good show tonight. Obviously, Bama stuff got heated, but we'll see how Bama responds this week, and I expect anytime there's a week where people are like, "Oh, there's no good games on," it should be a red flag because that always means chaos is about to ensue.
Yeah, some random.
Hopefully, we're not on the wrong end of that
this
week. But thank you everybody for watching and tuning in, and everybody have a good night.
Bye.